Okay. Yo, Counterattack podcast with myself, Daps. So guys, basically what we're doing now, I've been saying it for ages on my channel. We're about to I'm starting my MLS show. As some of you may know, I've been over to America a couple times last year. I've had quite a few MLS players before on my podcast, but I really want to create a whole show dedicated to MLS. So this is it. I've been teasing it for ages. We're finally going to do it. And yeah, I've got my first guest already like that. I know you guys thought it was just going to be me talking rubbish in your ears by myself, but no. I've got a player, goalkeeper, and he plays for Austin FC. Guys, I'm not going to lie to you. The way you lot hear me talk about football in Europe, it's not going to be the same for MLS, but I'm learning, and hopefully my guest now that I've got, he can help, fill in some of those gaps, which is going to be vital moving forward. So yes, a wonderful welcome to my first guest on this channel.
Recording in progress.
Okay, cool. Make sure I press record first. Yeah. So my first guest on this channel, it is none other than Matt Bersano. Austin FC goalkeeper, man. But thank you very much for coming in. For coming on. We obviously tried to do this about a month ago, and I got sick. And then with your travel arrangements and everything, it's absolutely hectic. But very quickly, because when I tell people, or when I even hear about it, the traveling, people might think, no, that's outrageous. Just how bad or how long is the travel in regards to you guys over there?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it. Sorry it took so long. Hopefully worth it. We're happy to be here. Yeah, but to get that going, I mean, the month of May, because that was when we were trying to connect, we had 9, which I know this isn't crazy, but we had 9 games in the month of May.
That's crazy.
But the games that we had were, for us, Austin is in Texas. It's in the middle of the country. We played away at Portland on the 6th. That means we got to fly all over there. It's like I think it's just under maybe 2.5, 3 hour flight, maybe 3 hour flight. And we fly back after 2 hour time difference. We play the game at 7:30 p.m. And so we don't get back from Portland until about 5 a.m. because we charter there and charter back. And so the travel distance wise and everything like that, it wouldn't be the worst thing, but you add in the time change, you add in the summer weather, you add in things like that, and it just makes it brutal. Because we went to Portland, we played at home. We had another home match for Open Cup, which is a side tournament that they have in the United States, kind of like you guys' FA Cup. And then we went to Seattle, which is above Portland, so it's even further away for us. That one we have to stay the next day because the flight's so bad. So we end up getting back at about 4 p.m. or so the next day. So we can't train or anything that day. Then we have one day of training Friday, and then we have a game Saturday. We had another game on that Saturday, another game the following Wednesday for Open Cup, and then I think we had 2 more to round out May. And so that's just like, obviously every month isn't like that. But when you get in that string of games where there's multiple tournaments and everything going on, it's not as simple as an hour drive or a bus ride down or a train ride down or something. Like, it's cross-country travel, and it's just absolutely brutal on the legs, the mind, all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think because what a lot of people, even me, myself, let me just talk about myself. When I think of traveling, normally in any other country, the traveling isn't as bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if you do have to take a plane, like over here, from London to Newcastle, let's just say, if you take a plane, you're probably on a plane for like an hour. And that's probably the furthest distance you're going to have to do, let's just say. But
yeah,
I forgot. It totally didn't register with me until recently, just how crazy that the traveling is. And what does that do in regards to even prepping for a match, number one, and also, like, I would think that there's hardly any away fans.
Yeah, there's no teams in the away supporters group, and you'll play them. They'll come to your stadium every time, but it's still so new in this league that there's like kind of they're building that out. Like, they're building maybe there's a watch party for a certain team in a certain city that you live in and stuff like that, but they're not really quite as good at traveling fans. They're getting there though. Like I'm not going to discredit the league because they're trying. It's just you can't fabricate time, right? They need to kind of build it. And so yeah, we'll play a couple teams. Like some of the most notorious are like kind of the Portland Timbers and the Seattle Sounders. Some of those like they'll come play you. I remember when I was in San Jose before Austin, there'd be 400 or so Portland people or something on a Saturday, and it'd be amazing for them for away supporters and stuff like that. But yeah, like kind of the way it works for us is usually like we'll have a training session on Friday, game day, match day -1 prep type of stuff. Do a little bit of set pieces, a little bit of stuff. And then we kind of got to head to the airport. Then we charter out. If it's 3.5 or 4 hours less, we'll fly like the day before. If it's 4 to 6 hours on flight. So like when I was in San Jose and I was on the West Coast, we would fly to Montreal. That'd be a 5.5 hour flight. We'd have to go on Thursday for a Saturday game because 3 hour time difference, 5 hour flight, it'd be just brutal when you get there. So like that kind of is a thing. A bit of something that happens in the MLS that I'm not sure if it's the rest of the world, but we might have a game on a Saturday in Miami, and then we'll have a game on Wednesday in Vancouver, and we're in the middle of the country. So we would have to go 3 hours right or 2 hours right, and then 5.5 hours across. Yeah. So you might stay that whole time instead of flying back. Because I know there was a couple times previously with my time in San Jose where we would fly to Austin was actually one of them, and we'd fly Austin to Orlando, and we just stay away for 8 days because it would just be better, smarter, all stuff instead of coming back. But then you have the side of it where you're just away from your friends, family, all that stuff for 8 days for 2 matches. Results wise, depending how they go, that kind of defines how your trip was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, honestly, man, and I don't think people like respect it enough because that is absolutely brutal. And like you said, in terms of your families, it's not like you're spending one night away. You're spending a couple nights away at a time. And and how long have you been doing this now? You're in your how many seasons?
This is my
your 8th.
Yeah, it's my 8th year.
Your 8th year, man. And are you just at the point where you're just used to it? Like this is your normal?
Yeah, I'm used to it with my wife for 5 years now, so she's used to it as well from that side. It's been a different transition with COVID. Charters and things became mandatory, so we charter everywhere, which is amazing for a time. Like we miss way less time. So we used to fly out on Friday, get back on Sunday, like, and you basically waste 3 days for one game. And the way it is now with COVID, we like fly there. Even on we played Kansas City 2 weeks ago, and we flew morning of and play the game, fly back that night, get back at like 1:30 a.m. That's our closest flight. That's about an hour and a half or 2 hours. And so but then we have our plane gets delayed because there's like a gas leak on the fuel line or something like that. And next thing you know, like it's the day of the game and we're sitting at a chartered like aviator like hangar waiting for an hour for a plane to leave an hour late. That's chartered. So like there's still mishaps, there's still stuff like that. I think maybe like Brazil and Argentina might be the only 2 countries that would know anything about that kind of travel, but apart from that, I think we're one of the few in the world that travel that much in a year. Like it's insane. It's nuts. It's nuts. And guys, when they come over here, they're shocked.
Yeah.
Who was it? So I'm very good friends with Bradley Wright Phillips, obviously, and Bradley's the one that first told me about it, about the travel, and he said it was just brutal. And I'm hearing as well that certain players, like when you get those big players come over from Europe, some of them have it like where they don't even travel to certain games. Like they won't go because it's just so far. So I've heard of.
Yeah.
There's always going to be,
it's way less common now than it used to be. But yeah, there'd be some players that like, if it was a super far trip and if it was turf, I mean, Henry wouldn't do it. If he was flying to go play on turf, he's like, nah, that's a waste of my time, and it's hard to question him now when a player that caliber and everything like that. But it's way less common now. But I mean, you still hit a certain point where like guys need rest with all the games we're getting and all that type of stuff or whatever. So if it's our trip, if it's something like sometimes they might sign. We have something called Next Pro. MLS Next Pro. Basically, it's a second division for it's kind of like a in between academy and first team. So it's like a second division. It's equal in stature to USL League One. So it's a Division 3 level thing for us, but it's a kind of a second team for the first team. And there'll be situations like we played Toronto, and I think they pulled up 4 next pro players or something like that on like 4-day contracts, 10-day contracts, whatever it is, for them to be on a short-term agreement because they were so undermanned. They didn't have enough players because of injuries, the accumulation of games, suspensions, all that type of stuff. And so, yeah, it's kind of it's an odd way of setting things up, but you know, I'm used to it. But you know, I always gotta like give everybody a buffer when they come over here, so they can really get engaged and understand like what it's gonna be.
And you know, we spoke about or you mentioned players that have come over from Europe to America, and what I did want to touch on is because over the last couple of years we've seen, I mean, Beckham kind of set for a lot of people. Beckham was the first one to really go over there and do so. We've seen Thierry Henry go over there, and you know, over the years we've seen Kaká go over there, David Villa, I think Pirlo went over there, and now we're going to touch on Messi joining the league now. But with these players go over there, have you noticed over the 8 years that you've been playing in the MLS, have you seen the quality of the league go up? And also, have you seen that the popularity rise, or has it just kind of been steady?
It's like dramatically improved from Beckham first coming over when he did. I mean, that we have like, there's jokes of MLS 1.0, MLS 2.0, and now we're almost getting to the point where the money being thrown around by the ownership groups, by the league and everything, it's hitting almost that MLS 3.0. Like Austin FC is a newer club. This is its 3rd season. And what Austin FC this year, St. Louis City is the new team this year. What these teams bring is like this incredible brand new stadium. The fans are selling out every single game. The atmosphere of the games are incredible. Like all this stuff. And I bet 10 years ago, if somebody would have said, hey, like, what's it going to be like in St. Louis for soccer? I'm sure people from St. Louis would be like, oh, it'd be great. Everyone else would be like, I don't know. I don't know what it'd be like there. That's a Midwest town. It's a blue collar town. Like, I don't know what it's going to be like. And then they're selling out 26,000 every single game. Obviously they're still in their first year, but it's such an electric atmosphere that it's like this kind of growth is incredible. And I mean, obviously it comes with a price. They paid a ton of money to get into the league, and you're seeing that investment kind of pay out, and you're seeing it on the pitch. And so kind of one of the ways that I described it in a locker room, before you used to have some really good players, and then you had to kind of fill the spots, because there's ways the roster can be structured and whatnot. Now you're getting the depth of the league. You're getting 18 to 20 players deep that you could interchange into your starting lineup at any time, and it kind of flows. And the teams that can do that are the teams that find the most success, and the ones that struggle to find that, to fill that roster spot out, those are the ones that, as we hit the end of the year, like they're not getting it done, you know? And so like that's kind of the magic of it all. The technical director and the GM, sporting director, all that stuff is so important in this league, because you just really have to understand how it works.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, you know, you said that was it Austin that's only 3 years old.
Yeah,
it's interesting because you're never going to get a club that's 3 years old in the Premier League, like never, because they have to go through the different leagues in order to work their way up. And but is it literally a thing of, so let's say someone wants to start a team today, like for next season, can they literally just buy their way into the league? But then does no one else does no one else drop out? Or
no? So basically, the talk is that they're capping it at 30 spots. Currently we have 29, and so San Diego just announced that they will be the newest MLS expansion team. I believe it's starting in 2025. Give themselves time or whatever. I don't think it's next year. But yeah, I mean, the sum that they paid to be in this league is astronomical. It's like $500 million to be in this league. And what you gain in that is you gain a position as a part owner of the league, because we're something called single entity, which means every single owner is put into a pool together. When the league makes money, every owner makes money. So a move like Messi coming over, that's going to bring so much money into Miami, that's going to bring so much money into the MLS. So owners of Austin FC will make money because of Messi here. So that's kind of the incentive. I know it blows people's minds, the conversation of promotion relegation when we talk about it in the United States, but from a business structure, from kind of valuations, from everything, the MLS is so tied into real estate and into other things that valuations, I don't know if you've seen recently or whatever, but there's like 2 or 3 teams that are nearly, if not touching $1 billion.
Yeah, I know.
Valuation.
I know San Diego's one of them, right?
Is $1 billion. He was one of the newer ones who's 500 million. They don't have a team technically yet, so I don't know if they can get it. But LAFC is one that's
I know LAFC. $1 billion. Is Inter
Atlanta's
Miami
closed? What's that?
Is Inter Miami one of them?
The Inter Miami's high. They will. I mean, they'll sell much on that just from signing Messi. Like the amount of money they're going to make from that, just jersey sales, everything, ticket sales, all that stuff is just gonna grow like crazy. But like Atlanta United, Seattle Sound, some of these other ones are like $800-700 million. Like even the lowest one is like $400 million, and they compared that to like the sale price of what Newcastle was.
Exactly.
And it's because of that, that's the difference between promotion relegation and single entity, because these teams will never lose value. They could have bad seasons for 4 or 5 years, but their stadium they're not gonna drop a division where they're gonna lose out on potentially $200 million from going Premiership to Championship. So like that type of incentive is what is the buy-in for all these owners to be a part of the group. They get to join it, and you basically set something up to appreciate for hopefully as long as the league's around.
Mate, that just when you say it like that and you look at the business behind it, it can only grow. Do you get what I'm saying? It can only grow. And I always said, once one of the big hitters like Messi or Ronaldo goes over there, it's going to absolutely explode. And obviously, we've seen now recently that Messi has now said he's going to be at Inter Miami. What has that done from what you've seen from the inside? What has that done to the league and even within your club and, the whispers that are going around and everything? What has that done for you guys?
So basically so to tie it back into what you had said something previously about Beckham, when Beckham came over, the league had to change the rules. And what that was like the way our roster was structured, you couldn't have a player make that kind of money on the way it was. Like that's what it was, because it was a salary cap. Everyone had to stay under the salary cap. Beckham came over, you start paying him $5-7 million, whatever a year at the time was insane. So they had to change something. They basically gave out 3 roster spots that are called designated players, which are your players that can make unlimited amounts of money, and only a percentage of it would count against the salary cap. And so what Beckham did was change the rules, because the MLS had to adapt to having someone like Beckham in the league. So then every other team was given 3 roster spots, and every other team could start signing people, whatever. And in that grew the league. Now you get Messi. We're already a grown league right now. We're not top tier, like top 3-5 in the world, but we're growing like crazy. Like for the past 26 years, whatever, it's insane. But what Messi's going to do is he's going to put the pressure on the rest of the league to get owners that might have been sitting back, not really spending the money over the previous 5 to 10 years, kind of just been sitting on the assets of growth of their real estate and all that other stuff. You're going to get those owners to be pressured to spend, because the rest of the league is. And if the league's growing, you don't want to get left behind, because teams like San Diego who are new are going to come in and spend some money. And then even Miami hasn't been around that long. They're coming in and spending money. And so you're just getting growth from everywhere. Austin FC, we have one of the best stadiums in the entire country. It's incredible. We sold out, I think, we have a game tonight. I think it's going to be each one, 44th or 45th sellout in a row of 21,000 people.
Wow.
And tonight's going to be 104 degrees. So, and people are still going to come out. Wow. So it's like that type of growth and commitment and stuff like that all comes from the money invested in people like Beckham previously that got this league to grow exponentially. Now you get like Messi in this one, and you get people that want to come over and play with Messi. It's going to be crazy. The next 3 to 5 years are going to be 5 years are going to be crazy.
Yeah,
you have your deal. It's going to be nuts.
Yeah, I think it's such a good time for players within the MLS or players from outside of the MLS to go into the league. And I think even just with Messi going there, I think just perception alone, I think there's a lot of players who probably look at the MLS as like a retirement home, whereas now you're probably going to get players who maybe in their primes or, you know, just outside of their prime, are going to just be going over there and looking for moves over there. So it's definitely an exciting time. Yeah. So we've touched on, you know, the business side of things. We've touched on the salary. Wait, we didn't. Did you finish the salary cap stuff?
Too much on the salary cap stuff, besides basically
Yeah.
the growth that's going to come with like stuff like Messi.
So let's talk about the salary cap, because I've seen
Yeah.
I've seen some things of, correct me if I'm wrong, but only a certain amount of players in each team are only allowed to get paid a certain amount, right? Are they like different tiers?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain?
Yeah. Tiers is a perfect way to describe it. Yeah.
Mm.
So kind of 30, let's say you have 30 roster spots. You have 3 of them who are designated players. The league is all about acronyms. Okay. So if I say BPs, TAM, GAM, stuff like that, they're literally all about acronyms. It's crazy. But you got 3 players on your team that can make unlimited salary. So you have Messi coming over who's going to be making $50 million. $50 million doesn't show up on the salary cap. Whatever he would be, I think, senior max salary, which is like, let's say it's $600,000. 600 of his 50 million would show up on the salary cap. And the salary cap is at like 8.2 million right now. So he's only taking up 600,000. So then you have 7.6 million for the rest of the team to kind of be put out. And basically the way it's done, there's certain positions where homegrowns are like your academy kids who you sign to first team deals. You can sign them and it's money that comes out of the owner's pocket directly, but it doesn't count on the salary cap. And the whole idea of that one is promotion from within. You want to have a great academy system that's going to produce high quality players that could be influential to your team that you could potentially sell, but they don't cost you in the short term. So a homegrown player might be able to make more money than a kid who just came out of college because the homegrown came from that system. So you can pay him 200 grand a year, and that does not show up on the salary cap because you have 4 or 5 spots that you can allot towards homegrowns and things like that. So there's just constant mechanisms like that that make it such an intricate league on how it can be, how a roster can be structured. Because it's not as simple as just saying, we want him, we're going to sign him. You can't really do that. If it's a foreign player, there's something called a discovery list, or previously there was, I don't know if this year might be the last year of it, but there's something called a discovery list where, like, back in the day, the Thierry Henry, Clint Dempsey, these other guys who were playing in Europe and were brought over here, if a team had that player on their discovery list, you would have had to pay them money to be able to sign somebody who's in a different country.
No way.
Yeah, it's crazy. So like Clint Dempsey on someone else's discovery list. Seattle Sounders had to sign him or whatever, and so they would have had to either trade or do something to move up the allocation list to be able to get him. And so basically, as this league continues to grow, they're trying to make less and less things like that make it so complicated. And instead, you have your growth with your homegrowns. You have there is something new that was added in the most recent CBA. We have a collective bargaining agreement. I don't know if in Europe you know what that means, but basically we have player reps from every team, and we have an MLS Players Association, and we bargain with the ownership group to basically say what the future is going to be for spending, growth, kind of ways that we can ensure players are compensated for the growth in the league, and that the owners aren't just walking away with the extra millions they're making, and kind of get it so the money can be funneled back into the league, like guaranteed back in the league, so we continue this growth, so we get better players and better resources and everything. And so Austin FC has one of the best training fields in the country. Is one of the best stadiums in the country. This is a 2.5-year-old team. And so that type of growth, that type of stuff happens because of all this other stuff. We're just trying to push it back in the league because we want it to grow just as much. I don't think it's as selfish as like we believe we're the best players in the world and we want it to stay this way, where we have this kind of stronghold on the league locally, domestically. We want the league to grow too. Well, we get it. And the retirement stuff you talked about prior, we had a bunch of players who came over that were really famous and they were near the end of their careers. It's getting to be a little different now. Now we're getting a lot of really young South American players that are coming over, and they're getting sold for like 2 times the price they're being bought for. And that type of growth is just so good for the league.
Yeah. Well, it's like I keep saying, it's just sounding like a real exciting time. And even me from the outside, there's a reason why I've got this interest. And obviously now it's going to look like because Messi's gone over there, but I've been trying to get into it. But the thing is, you just think that football is it just works the same everywhere. But it literally is just so different in America, and just trying to get used to everything. But hopefully that's why, I'm doing this. I've adopted New York Red Bulls as my team, and they're not doing too great right now. So, but I've adopted them, and I do feel like eventually they will come back. But I feel like most Arsenal fans from London, if they do like an MLS team, it's always Red Bulls because of Thierry Henry, and then you got Ian Wright's son, Bradley Wright Phillips. Like that's always going to be our team. But quickly, on Austin, how would you look at you guys' season so far?
I think in a very real response to that, I think we've completely underperformed on what our quality is. Like, we know day in and day out training and stuff. We know that we are a better team than we've had in results. And I think that's a pretty frustrating time for us. But I've been on teams in the past that had better and worse seasons and may have been more or less talented, So it's kind of like we just are trying to get it to click. That's kind of been the thing. Because in training, we have those days, and I'm sure you remember when you were playing, you have those days where your lights out, everything's clicking, it's amazing. We've gotten a game day and it just hasn't been there. But the days that it has, and some of the wins that it has, it's like, because some of the wins we've grinded out this year, like away at RSL and some of these other ones, like those are tough wins. And then we've had some results at home that we're left like head scratching a little bit. And so I think it's just a very real way of answering that, is that we just know that we've underperformed. But I think there's definitely a belief in this locker room that we know we're not in the position we should be in and we should be higher. And so I think because of that, like you said about Red Bulls, Red Bulls is a good team as well, but I think we'll be able to figure it out because of that. We'll see it longer. We're halfway through the season right now. It's crazy the way our league is built. You win 3 or 4 games, and all of a sudden you're up like 5 spots in the standings. And playoffs is what matters here. Obviously, winning the regular season would be great, and it's a nice monetary bonus for your team, and it's a lot of pride and stuff. But if you're not going to win that year, win the regular season, getting into playoffs and making a run, that matters just as much.
Do you know what?
I mean, more about how you think.
Very quickly, yes, on that one.
Yeah.
So I was very surprised to hear, because obviously, if you finish top of the league, like you're whatever, like you win the league over here. But I heard that you could finish top of your side, Eastern or Western, but they rate winning the actual cup more than finishing first, if that makes sense.
Yeah. If you win the supporter, the regular season, your regular season is a supporter shield for us. If you win that, you go down as 2023 supporter shield winners. Your team gets a win bonus. There's stuff like that. And you do qualify for Champions League the next year by winning that. So there are things that matter from that. But definitely the MLS Cup is more prized, it's more coveted in the United States to win like the big tournament. It's like in a lot of the other sports, like NBA, NFL, you win, like you're the best team in the NBA. That's great. If you get knocked out in the Western Conference Finals, didn't matter. Like it's like that kind of idea. It's what you do at the end. So that's where like some of these teams can be great, and they'll be like a team that barely squeaked into playoffs, but they have rhythm and they're flying, and they'll win a couple games in a row. And next thing you know, they're in like the final. Yeah. And halfway in the season, they might have been in last place. Like 2016, Seattle Sounders, when I was playing with the Sounders, halfway in the season, we were in last place in the West. The head coach got fired. They brought in a DP from Uruguay. His name is Nico Madero. And next thing you know, they kind of went on a tear and won 5-6 games right before playoffs. And then they literally went from being the last or 5th or 6th team in the playoffs to winning the entire league. And so, yeah, that it definitely matters more. But I mean, I don't know if you saw, there's a video today that came out of Gareth Bale talking about how losses and stuff kind of don't matter the same in the United States and whatever. Yeah. I just think there's so much context that's taken out of that. And when he's comparing that to Real Madrid, I mean, that's like, not quite as a comparable of a situation, because the losses do matter regular season. But it's not necessarily a fear of relegation. That's not a real threat. But also for Madrid, it's not a real threat either. So again, like I said, I don't think it's a direct comparison on the two there. But yeah, wins and losses matter in the regular season because guys want. I mean, you want home field advantage in the playoffs, especially if you're higher in the table. You're top. You would get home field if you win your conference. You get home field all the way to the final. And obviously, every team wants to play at home all the way to the end. You know.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you very much. This was a very quick one. I hope that you will come back on when you don't have a match.
Yeah.
And yeah. No. Honestly, man, because I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you so much for this. You are my first guest, and yeah. Hopefully, who you guys playing tonight?
Tonight we play Dallas, so we have our like Copa Tejas, which is like the Texas Cup. We have our Dallas tonight, and then Houston on Saturday, and so it's the rivalry week for the state of Texas. So it'll be fun. They all matter, and it's like 104 degrees, so it's gonna be a toasty one out there.
Don't listen to Gareth Bale; they all matter.
Yeah.
but yeah, no. Thank you very much, and you guys that are watching this, I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm gonna put Matt's Instagram handles and everything all online, and yeah, guys, follow me on my journey, getting to know more MLS players and more about the football. We're going to start breaking down the games once I get used to how the games go and everything. And guys that are going to come with me on my journey to watch it, make sure you sign up to the Apple season pass. So that is a great way to actually keep in touch, keep up to date with all the football. So yeah, thanks guys. Matt, love for that. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure being on. And then, like you said, I mean, I'd love to come back at some point. If anybody watching has any questions, something like that, leave them there, and he'll get me on again some other time, and we'll hopefully be able to answer them.
Love that. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Thank you. Wait there. Yeah.